Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Rose.
I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our Black Mirror Season 7, Episode 5 reaction and review. This is an episode titled Eulogy, and from the start here, let's just say this is maybe the low light of the season. We haven't watched the
No.
USS Callister sequel yet. Hopefully that's not the low light of the season, given all the hype around it.
Yeah, here's the thing. When I heard all the different names this season, all the different titles for these episodes, I heard Eulogy and I was like, this is going to be my episode
Mhm.
because I'm a former funeral director. Eulogies, I've heard a million of them at this point. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, so they're going to be diving into funeral services, something I know really intimately. So let's go. It was okay. It was not as exciting as I hyped it up to be in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's important to say from the get-go, calling this a low light of season 7, that does not mean that this episode is a disaster. Like, I can
No.
name probably 2 or 3 episodes last season that I think are worse than this one. I think that this one did bring a lot of interesting ideas to the table. I mean, Paul
Mhm.
Giamatti's always great, so I think having
Amazing.
him front and center is always going to be a big thing here. But it's
Yeah.
just when you compare this to the other episodes this season, which are either really action packed or really innovative in a storytelling way, or just downright weird, which is what we can say about Plaything with Peter Capaldi, it just felt like this episode was a little bit too slow. I could see there being some people out there who feel like it's a bit boring or that not enough even happened.
I felt that it was a bit boring, and like I said, I've heard a lot of eulogies. I've been to countless funerals. I
Yeah.
have, it's just it just felt like somebody going through the grieving process. And I was like, okay, that can be interesting. But going down memory lane, I think the thing that made it the hardest for me as a viewer, but made sense to the story, was the fact that we couldn't see Carol's face. So by the time we got to it at the end, I was like, I don't know who you are. Like it visually, to be able to see a character's face, to make a connection to the story for us as a viewer, it's very difficult when there is no face to attach to it. So by the time he gets to the moment where he can see her face, I'm just like, oh, okay.
We'll get into everything that worked, what didn't over the course of this episode. Before we do go further, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we have reviews of all of Black Mirror Season 7 here at the channel. Many of them are online. We have USS
Mhm.
Callister, the big sequel coming up here soon. But beyond Black Mirror, we are also in the midst of The Handmaid's Tale. The
Mhm.
finale for Yellow Jackets is this week. And also, we're building to The Last of Us and the huge monumental season 2 premiere of that.
Absolutely. We also have Dexter Resurrection coming up, Alien Earth coming up. There is a lot of great shows here at the channel, so hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Mhm.
And also follow us over on our Patreon if you want to help support us over there. Over there, we are covering The Pit, which is finishing up over on Max,
Yeah.
and Bosch Legacy, final season. And it's the only place you can get those reviews. And we're going to be having a poll coming up where you, our Patreons, get to actually vote on what we cover next, specifically over there on our Patreon. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you guys so much. And go ahead and put on your tinfoil hats here
Oh
because
boy,
I'm
all
going to
right.
say here's how this episode really came about. And I say this with no actual knowledge of the real world events that transpired, but
That's why we have on our tinfoil hats.
this feels like a situation where this is a story that Charlie Brooker, who co-wrote this episode, wanted to tell. And so he just sort of started to get it together. And he was then like, oh, I'm probably not going to be able to tell this unless I make it into a Black Mirror. So I'm going to shoehorn some Black Mirror stuff into this. And now it suddenly works. And now I can put it on the air. It's sort of like there is this crime drama in development at CBS now that they basically shoehorned into a Blue Blood spinoff so that they could get the show made. And CBS is like, oh, we have Donnie Wahlberg now? Okay, all right, well, let's just put this on the air in the fall. And who knows if that would have happened otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, there was some good stuff that was in here. Like Matt said, this is
Yeah.
not trash. It's not a trash episode.
No.
It's just for me, because I was not making a connection to Carol, one, because, Philip he gets this call. He's like, oh, Carol has died. Okay, why are you calling me about this? Oh, we have this new service called Eulogy where, we can take thoughts from your mind and help sort of put them together in this comprehensive portfolio so that the family can have all these memories from all these people that all knew Carol. I was just like, wow, that's really invasive.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of memories, and that happened here as well, that he was going through. They was like, oh, maybe we don't include the first time we hooked up, or maybe we don't include this fight that we had when I cheated on her, or those types of things that can't come up. And throughout the episode, I was kind of like, is this where we're going with it then? That maybe at the end of the episode, we're going to learn that he's actually giving this eulogy live and that it's not exactly what he was told it was. And he's actually up there airing out all his dirty laundry. Like, how dark is this going to get? None of that happened, of course. It really was what they said, where they were just like, yeah, we're going to take these different parts, put it together in sort of this montage of thoughts and feelings about Carol, and then have it at the funeral. I was like, oh, okay. This is an actual straightforward Black Mirror episode. What am I watching?
Can we create a Black Mirror episode where we actually get your ending instead of? I like your ending better than what they ended
I
up
thought it was going to
doing.
be so dark.
Like, that would have been so dark, but this is a very dark show. I would have been more than fine and accepting of that. Like, okay, first and foremost, just the premise of all of this alone. If I'm Philip, I hang up the phone. I'll be honest with all you guys. I don't like picking up the phone ever to like a phone number I don't understand or recognize. Like, I'll just let it go to voicemail. I've been burned too many times. Even if I'm on the phone and these people are telling me what this is, I'm just like, you want me to do what? With this, he's a very accepting person to go along with all of this from the jump.
Yeah, no, thank you. If I don't know you, I'm not picking up my phone. If I don't know you, I'm not opening my door. Either I'm going to be sold on something or somebody's going to take me. So I'm not
Yeah.
interested in this. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't have even picked up that call. But then if I did pick up that call, I still wouldn't do it. And I'm a funeral director, and this seems like it's a bit too immersive memorial where they're actually going into your mind and taking memories is very invasive.
It's really invasive. It's like the only way I could see some people being willing to go through with this in the real world is if it's actually somebody who wants to remember maybe more elements of their past that they might have forgotten, and this company may help them be able to access some of it. Like, I get that, but it is a slippery slope because it's not just having you remember your own memories, but you're also like, hi, company, I don't really know. Go ahead and have these memories, especially if you do Philip and you skip the introduction and you don't really recognize who it is you're supposedly talking to the entire time.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. I think, there's lots of us that have gone to funerals and memorials
Yeah.
and then have sort of the after of it all. Like, here's a story time. So my grandmother passed away. I was the funeral director at her funeral. Afterwards, we all went back to her apartment and, started to put things away and had some drinks and had some food, and we're bringing up our memories and, sharing memories and remembering things that we didn't remember. Like, that is all part of the process and can be part of the process. And that's what this felt like here, where Philip is kind of going through that part of the process, remembering everything. Oh, the good times, the bad times, all of that. It's a very normal thing that happens when somebody passes away, before, during, after. Like, I get that. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, is this entertaining to watch if we're not invested in Carol? We don't know what she looks like. So was that really the whole mystery of it all? That it's like, oh man, I can't wait to see what she looks like. And she just looks like a normal girl.
I think the biggest thing the episode did have going for it was that they cast somebody in Giamatti where you look at him and you
Yes.
just think, oh, he's one of us. Like, he just looks like a normal dude. He's
Mhm.
not like, a conventional, oh, look, we're going through the memories with Jake Gyllenhaal and we're sitting here being like, look at this really good looking dude who could, be with any person. And it's just like Giamatti's a very good relatable everyman actor. And I think putting him at the center of all of it, it was the most effective thing that the show could have done for a story that, yeah, unless you're really fine with slow moving, introspective television where you're kind of understanding who this person is, why they did what they did, that they're flawed, that Carol's flawed, that it is something that feels occasionally like it can be a chore.
Yeah, this felt like it was about, of course, remembering Carol, but it was also, of course, telling this love story of, how they met, how they got together, their first apartment, all these different things. And for me, it was less about remembering her face, but just remembering something that he has really put out of his mind. Because when trauma happens, that is a body's response that the
Mhm.
body will protect itself by forgetting things so that you can move forward. He said it took him 15 years to
Yep.
get past it. He finally got to a place that he can't even remember her face anymore, and he is functioning quite well at this point. But actually diving deeper back into what happened seemingly has helped him have better understanding of what actually happened at the end of all of this, because he was just kind of like, I don't know what happened. Like,
Yeah.
we had this fight because I cheated on her. And then 2 months later, I thought it was a super great idea to go back, go out to the UK and propose to her while our relationship was on really shaky ground. And then when she didn't say anything and walked out, it's her fault. And it's kind of like, okay, you didn't know some of these other elements that came out in the story, which was
Yeah.
that she also had a one night stand, and she got pregnant and then left this letter being like, listen, I did this thing. I'm taking responsibility. I really love you and I want to be with you, but I'm not sure if you're going to be okay with it. If you are, meet me here. If you're not okay with it, then, I'll see you never, sort of thing. He doesn't know any of that, but what he does know is he cheated on her. She found out about it. He flew out there 2 months later on a rocky relationship and proposed. I'm just kind of like, that enough should have been enough to tell you that she wasn't going to say yes.
Yeah, and this episode was effective in that we had somebody who had inherently made so many different mistakes that it's sort of he can't see things the way they are for himself because a lot of people think they're their hero of their own story, right? And that because he made this big valiant effort to go over there and propose that's like okay, that washes away everything that happened beforehand. But then also the longer time goes, the more you try to really convince yourself that that is the truth because that helps you to function to get through the next day, and he has figured out a way in which to do that. But okay, this is the question that I am really wrestling with the most. I'm curious to hear what you think and hear what a lot of commenters think about this, because usually with Black Mirror, Charlie is trying to tell us that technology is evil and we should all stay away from it to the best of our ability. But here, and you kind of touched on this, like he actually does get something out of this eulogy technology. So
Yes.
is this a softening of kind of the Black Mirror stance, or is this something that Charlie has kind of always thought where it is applied the right way, there can be uses to some of this technology, but the problem is that most humans, are not going to apply it the right way, and they're going to use this for evil rather than good.
Yeah, that's the thing about Black Mirror. We are in 7 seasons now, and we've seen so many stories of
Yeah.
how technology can ruin your life, evil, bad, in the wrong hands, all these terrible things can happen. I feel like at this point in the show's run, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of episodes that show that technology can be used in a productive way. And
Yeah.
I do appreciate that with this episode, because Philip really went on a journey where he was blaming Carol for everything. He even blamed her for calling while he was in the middle of cheating on her. Oh, well, she never calls me. Why, of all the nights, she's gonna get up early to call me, to wish me a happy birthday. How dare she? That, he goes through really understanding that he put everything on Carol, took no responsibility himself to get through to the point that he actually is able to take responsibility for some of those things with the help of the guide, which
Yeah.
always reminds me of What We Do in the Shadows. Every time I hear the guide, I was like, ooh, the guide, who ends up being sort of this AI of Carol's daughter, Kelly, where she is able to guide him through some of this, where he's able to see his own mistakes and that Carol wasn't what he built her up to be in his mind.
Yeah, I think having a personal connection to Carol, it made sense for the story, and it made sense to kind of tie everything a little bit together in that way. Though I will just admit, in totality, like I'm glad I went on this journey. I'm glad that I saw kind of a different kind of Black Mirror episode than I've seen before. Am I going to be craving to watch this again? No, because I just feel like I've gotten everything I need to get out of it.
Yeah, it had a satisfying ending, which
Yeah,
rarely happens with this
I
show,
know.
where, he finds this letter that explains everything to him. He actually gets closure, which is a lot of what funerals are about in general. They're to help you say goodbye. They're,
Mhm.
yes, of course, they're for the person who's died, but they're really for the people who are living to be able to reconcile things, say goodbye, have that sort of finality on it, and be able to move on. Having that letter open things up to him, that he realizes the life that he missed out on because of his anger, because of his blame on everybody else, that he missed out on this beautiful life that he could have had, that brings him to the point that he actually goes to the funeral. I think this was a beautiful story that was told,
Yeah.
but for me, I think it would have helped to actually see her face so that I felt like it was a little more of a connection for me with Carol, or at least bring her face in at the point that they're like reading the letter or getting us kind of around there.
Yeah, just waiting to the very end to see her face just wasn't that much of a reveal because it was just like, oh,
No.
she has a face, just like every other human being has a face. I kind of assumed that it was just be like, oh, okay, she's a seemingly nice enough normal woman. Okay.
Yeah, it just feels like what you said, that they wanted to make this story, but they needed to make it Black Mirror. So how can we do that? We can do some cool effects that she doesn't have a face.
Yeah.
And the other, sort of cool effect is something that this show has used before. So here's my
All
tinfoil
right.
hat.
All right. Let's do it.
The little disc, the guide disc that Philip puts on his head is the exact same guide disc that is in USS Callister. And it seemingly is the same technology that was developed at Callister, that you put this on, you go into your mind, and you have this different experience where USS Callister, it's a video game. Here, you're going into your own memories to pull out for like this immersive memorial service sort of thing, kind of like what we saw in Hotel Reverie as well. You
Yeah.
put on this disc, you go in, and you're having a movie made. But it all feels like it's tying back to the technology that Robert made on USS Callister, which I thought was really interesting for this season with the Easter eggs, because the last episode is revisiting Robert's Callister.
Okay. What I think is really curious about everything you're saying here is that we could view a lot of Black Mirror as having like a somewhat shared universe. I mean, especially this season, because we also had that Streamberry nod in
Yeah.
Reverie, which is tied to Joan is Awful. And it feels like here's what I think Charlie is doing with all of this. I think he obviously just wants us to have conversations about Easter eggs and whether or not this
Mhm.
stuff is connected. But I think he's giving himself a little bit of leeway because I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but someday maybe he's going to have a Black Mirror Avengers where he sort of brings a lot of different stories together and he can do something big and epic if he wants to. But if he doesn't want to, it can just be a fun Easter egg that connects a lot of the stories that we can talk about, and then that's it. He's giving himself options, which I more than understand at this point because I think this show is just going to go on however long he wants it to, because it's just like it didn't even always exist, strictly at Netflix. Like there's a lot of different ways and directions this show can go.
Okay, the last thing I want to say is that the product placement in this episode was a bit much. Like there's always going to be product placement
Yeah.
in shows. It's just, it helps,
Yeah.
offset costs and all that. But DHL, I understand that you had a product placement where that drone is coming down. Then we've got the package. Then we've got a close up on the package. Then we have a close up of opening up the package. I was like, okay, we get it, man. You like to use DHL, and that is what is happening.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do product placement, it needs to be product placement that actually makes me wonder, like, would a company really sign off on this? Like the blender brand that was in the White Lotus, where they had to come out and be like, we did not sign off on our blender being used in this capacity. Like, I want things right.
Or when Crockpot had to come out and give a
Yes.
statement from This Is Us.
Or like even on this past Saturday Night Live, where they had this sketch where Chester Cheetah from Cheetos was on there advising a certain amount of preparation age, where I was sitting here being like, would Cheetos ever advocate for this?
Probably not.
Like, we want something that's really weird with that. But yeah, it was a little bit much, but in general, yeah, weakest episode of this season, but that doesn't make it a dud. I think it's a fine episode of Black Mirror, not super memorable, great performance from Giamatti, but it just felt like, okay, we went in, we got it. And like a lot of eulogies, you sit there, you reflect on it, and then you try to just move forward with your life.
Yes.
But that's where we are. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments, and also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything else we have coming, and you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering exclusively there in video form The Pit on Max and also Bosch Legacy on Prime Video. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.